So, folks, we need to talk about a fundamental idea, which sounds, I think, extreme or might sound extreme to a lot of liberals, but I think we have to start talking about it in a more serious way. And that is that fundamentally, the Republican Party needs to be dismantled. It needs to be broken apart. It needs to be rendered inoperable, and the power bases that it relies upon rendered inert. I titled the stream that I'm recording this from, "The GOP must be destroyed," and "Maga delenda est," and that's genuinely, I think, where we're at. The GOP has been co-opted as a front for a massive, massive amount of wealth that is all being funneled into radicalization programs, basically to make people fascists and to spread misinformation on purpose. This is not something that we can just be like, well, we got rid of Donald Trump and that's that. Everything gets better, because the fundamental principles that created Trump are still going to be in place. When there is a new president, presumably from the Democratic Party, whether we're talking a liberal or a democratic socialist, there needs to be action that actually renders the GOP unable to function. We need someone in office and a recognition across the Democratic Party that no, Nancy Pelosi, we don't need a strong, vibrant Republican Party. Because, frankly, this is intolerable, right? This is what the GOP is bringing to us every single day and saying, hey, we can't make your lives better, but what if we made them actively worse and racist?
But I'm just thinking about it. This is maybe going to make news because I've never...
God, he's so quiet. Of course. Of course the clip is quiet as hell. That's what I get.
I'm just thinking about now, when they take something over, it's always dirty. The sidewalks are dirty. The people are, I hate to say this, not clean, okay? The curbs are loaded with you-know-what. The smell is terrible. I mean, I see it happening to cities. Blue cities are all blue. They're all blue. We don't have problems with the Republican-run cities, I mean, for the most part. But they're dirty. I said,
this man hates America. This is the leader of a party that hates what makes America good. Average, everyday working people who come here and seek to work hard to make a better life for themselves and their loved ones and their communities. He hates that. He hates the idea of people changing their lot in life. He hates the idea of the peasants, the dirty, stinking peasants, being able to rub shoulders in equality with people who have money, people like himself. He hates the very premise of America. That's why he and people like him seek to effectively bring back a form of slavery for those they deem lesser. It's one of the reasons why, over and over and over again, we don't actually have anything of value being offered by the Republican Party. For example, here's a clip of RFK Jr., right?
Americans no longer trust public health.
That's terrible.
Because they were lied to, and
Americans no longer trust public health, says the guy in charge of goddamn public health. All as, by the way, oh, whoopsie doodle, the Trump administration is ending Medicare drug plan subsidies for the elderly. Your grandma and grandpa are about to start paying so much more money for the prescription drugs they need to live. But no, guys, you don't understand. It's not the GOP's fault that this is happening. This is actually because Anthony Fauci, a guy who holds exactly zero power in the actual administration right now, and hasn't for years, It's all his fault, which is why Republicans, instead of doing anything meaningful to actually help your Mima and your Peep Pop, instead they cut funding for the programs that keep them alive, and then released Anthony Fauci's diary in some kind of scheme to try and say, hey, Anthony Fauci was the one who made this happen somehow. You know, here's Randy Fine.
Problem. COVID was a serious thing, but people like Anthony Fauci took guesses and said they were certainties. And so many of those guesses turned out to be wrong. And I think he will be remembered incredibly poorly, literally as a historically evil figure. And
and we're not just saying this. You can read it and hear exactly. He knew what he was saying was completely incorrect, especially with the death totals. And like you said, the amount of kids that basically did not go to school, and they will be behind with their education for the rest of their lives. People died alone because of all of this. Again, he is testifying for the Senate on Capitol Hill. Well, anything, do you think, will he be held accountable, I guess, for anything? He was pardoned by the Biden administration.
Well, I don't know that he'll be held accountable by going to jail, but I think he will be held accountable in the history books. You know, problem.
Yeah, he was so evil that no, we aren't going to charge him with any crime, but like, people will be real mean about it on Twitter, though. Like, this is what I mean. Like, they are just liars. They are awful, awful liars. And let's just walk through it real quick, right? This is a sitting member of Congress telling lies with the aid of this Newsmax host here.
Poorly, literally as a historically evil figure. And
and we're not just saying this. You can read it and hear exactly. He knew what he was saying was completely incorrect.
No, he didn't. Because this was a new thing when COVID happened. People have the shortest goddamn memories. Nobody knew what this thing was. Nobody knew its method of transmission. They knew that it was maybe airborne, but for how long? Like where was the virus actually located? In what was it actually how was it being spread? We didn't know at the beginning. And so they had to figure that out. And with the limited options available, Fauci made the recommendations that he thought would be most helpful, using his vast experience with epidemiology, right? So one can be wrong when you're dealing with a lot of unknowns about a disease we didn't know much about and had no treatment for.
Especially with the death totals. And
with the death totals, guess who was covering up the death totals? Wasn't Anthony Fauci. It was the Trump administration under the order of Donald Trump. He literally is quoted at the time as saying, if the death tolls aren't recorded, then it's actually lower. He literally thought that if fewer cases were recorded by the CDC, fewer people were actually going to be getting sick.
And like you said, the amount of kids that basically did not go to school, and they will be behind with
Yeah, those kids didn't go to school because kids can be vectors for COVID. Kids could get sick with COVID and then transmit it to their parents or their elderly caretakers. Like, the problem was having a bunch of people in a space that is confined, and you have an airborne disease that travels on water droplets from your lungs. And so if somebody is sick with COVID and is in a room full of 30 to 40 kids, you are multiplying the opportunities for that virus to spread to a colossal degree. That's why kids stayed home. They didn't stay home because Anthony Fauci was just going, ha, 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 ha. We didn't have any treatment for this.
Their education for the rest of their lives. People died alone.
People died alone because we literally didn't know how this was transmitted. And when we knew how it was transmitted, it turns out, yeah, having a bunch of people around a sick person who has a contagious disease makes it more likely for it to spread. This isn't rocket science. We know how diseases work when they're airborne. Like, people died alone because we didn't have treatment options that were available to them. And we didn't have the knowledge base in order to keep people who would like to be around them, their loved ones, safe. Like, this is what the Republican Party offers. It offers nonstop lies. The Newsmax, as an organization, is out there just spreading lies like this. Completely unchecked, completely uncorrected lies. There is no salvaging this. This is a propaganda network built by billionaires in an effort to prop up the Republican Party. This is not sustainable for our society. This is not sustainable for any healthy society or civilization. And not only that, we are in right now one of the worst financial situations in modern history, largely due to what Donald Trump has been doing with tariffs and economic policy and antagonizing our trade partners deliberately, like Canada, one of our major trade partners, or Mexico, one of our major trade partners, and starting a needless war in the Middle East. All of this is creating a situation where literally the most money is being spent on gambling ever. Sports betting is now the biggest industry in America. Bigger than movies, art, museums, music, all entertainment mediums combined. Why is it getting bigger? It's getting bigger because people are getting more and more economically desperate, and economically desperate people are more willing to gamble on the off chance that it provides a way out of their desperation, which in turn means that more and more money gets sucked up by these gambling corporations. It's not a coincidence that all of this is happening under Donald Trump. It's not a coincidence that every single major news network is integrating with the betting markets, like Kalshi, for example. You know, hell, even some supposedly progressive networks are melding with these gambling weirdos.
Live from the Polymarket studio in LA.
Like, this is truly apocalyptic for our information ecosystems, for our overall economy. And like, on top of that, like, guys, here's the tariffs. Tariffs by year. Net tariff revenue, relatively stable until, we get to Donald Trump here, and suddenly Donald Trump starts putting in tariffs. Biden, a failure, doesn't rescind those tariffs, and then Donald Trump gets into office again. They go way up high, and I want to remind everyone, because I know some Republicans are going to be watching this and being like, liberals, socialists, communists, blah. These are all taxes on the American people. A tariff is a tax on Americans. Americans pay the tax. American companies pay the tax. Earlier this year, do I have the clip teed up? I don't actually have the clip teed up. Damn it. Curses. Maybe I can pull it up real quick here. But Donald Trump, yeah, here it is. Here he is talking with GM, General Motors.
Oh, the fins at the back. I mean, this was really bleeding from a design perspective.
They've come a long way. It's amazing what tariffs will do for General Motors and what the election has done. They're doing great. General Motors is doing fantastically, the best year they've ever had. And I won't get into it, but there's a reason. We've been very good to General Motors. And the rest of the world doesn't love me, but that's okay. It's called America First, right? It's been amazing.
Thank you, Mr. President.
It's fantastic. Margaret, she's been with me.
I mean, first of all, he comes across like a doddering old fool here. But number one, I guess number two, because I already said first of all. Number two, Donald Trump, no, like what you're seeing play out here is fascism, right? You're seeing a corporation cozying up to Donald Trump in an effort to curry favor, in an effort to get preferential treatment, because they know that effectively any kind of democratic check on Donald Trump's corruption is dead at the moment. And when we are investigating this situation. Of course, it turns out that he's also lying right in front of them, and they're going along with the lie. And I say that because General Motors posted $1.1 billion in losses last year due to the tariffs that they paid, and that they specifically ate the cost of those tariffs. It cut into their profits. $1.1 billion with a B. He's sitting there being like, they're having the best year they've ever had. Tee-hee, tee-hee. That's absolutely a fucking lie. So when we're talking about what is the Republican Party offering, it's offering fascism, right? It's offering fascism. And, you know, I know that there are going to be some people who are like, whoa, that sounds a little hyperbolic, Jack. Well, let's take a look at the work of Phil Williams, who, if you guys don't remember, we've actually covered a few times here on the show. Phil Williams is a reporter who specifically has taken an interest in reporting on the activities of different neo-Nazi groups across America. Earlier today, actually, he published a new story on his blog, Hate Comes to Main Street. Neo-Nazi militia inside the fascist fight clubs preparing men for battle. Now, it is quite interesting. He is a reporter for Channel 5 News. And let's just take a look at this report here real quick.
Tonight, News Channel 5 investigates a fascist fight club with tentacles that reach right here in Middle Tennessee.
And extremism experts are now warning these groups are using martial arts to try to recruit new followers.
Young ones, right? As News Channel 5's chief investigative reporter Phil Williams discovered, teen boys have now become their latest targets.
Here at
I will say it's unsurprising that fascists target children. That's frankly who they're interested in.
Jiu-Jitsu gym in an industrial park near Nashville's Armory Drive, a gym that advertises its family-friendly atmosphere. News Channel 5 investigates had kept watch on the comings and goings of one of the more visible figures in a far-right movement that's raising concerns among those who monitor extremist activity.
My name is Sporty. From Tennessee.
Sporty, as he calls himself in this online video, is Tristan Redke, a licensed EMT working for a Nashville area ambulance service. Redke made headlines 7 years ago while a student at East Tennessee State when he showed up at a Black Lives Matter protest wearing a gorilla suit.
I do want to say, by the way, this is the main kind of person left in MAGA. The kind of person who, like, oh yeah, of course you're the kind of guy who would go to a Black Lives Matter rally and wearing like a gorilla suit. Because that's what you think about black people. Like, this is the main core base of MAGA. They're racist, rabidly nationalist, and they're fascists. Full stop. That's why they're in the bag for Donald Trump.
A gorilla suit. Now he's become a player.
Yeah, they are the kinds of guys who watch Fight Club and don't understand it.
In the so-called active club scene, a sort of fascist fight club.
We're ultra-nationalist, far-right, fascist, you know. I mean, I'll lean a little bit into these terms, you know.
Also, these guys don't deny it. They're proud of it. They're proud of being Nazis. And this is another reason that the GOP must be systematically dismantled, because they facilitate this kind of guy. They facilitate the creation, the grooming of young people into this kind of man. That's what this is. When you see Newsmax, when you see Fox News, when you see all of these vectors of billionaire thought beamed right into middle America, they are designed to start creating this type of person, this type of mentality. And like, I see a lot of you being like, fucking loser, and like, these guys are losers. Because fascism is a loser's mentality. It is the mentality, the ultimate manifestation of victimhood. Oh, poor me. I'm just a little guy. I'm just a little guy. The world has wronged us. We need a big, strong leader to tell us what to do. Only they can save us because they're losers. They give up their agency to the first authoritarian who comes along.
Movement is headed by this man, Robert Rendo, a white nationalist.
They're losers, but they're also dangerous. Yeah. No one ever said losers can't be dangerous.
Who was featured in a recent 60-minute segment has tried to recast the movement as being about young white men getting fit.
I'm thinking about creating a right-wing podcast that names the Jew.
But behind that image is this image of Rundle violently assaulting a Trump protester at a California rally in 2017. Rundle spent 24 months in federal prison, according to the DOJ.
This is the thing, right? This is who they got. Like, these are the guys who are openly embracing anti-Semitism. They are openly embracing the label of fascism. They are seeking to normalize it. And the bravado that they try to exude to sell their ideology is designed specifically to try and capture children. They are trying to put out a kind of almost brotherly aura in order to capture kids who might otherwise be gravitating towards the red pill movement, or, you know, who might otherwise have found themselves in like a perfectly nice like anime community or a cosplay community, you know, because they're preying on children who are looking for a place to belong, looking for a way that they can fit into the world. And the fascist message is simple. You can fit in, just shut up and stop thinking and hate the right people.
For planning and engaging in riots at political rallies across California. The Active Club founder has called organized fights like these a, quote, tip-off point for a fascist cultural revolution.
And a lot of this is spurred by Donald Trump encouraging violence from his supporters.
He added, every victorious nationalist movement was forged by hardened men who already tasted real danger.
This is not just a national sports club or nationalist sports club. In its essence, it's the strategy to build a neo-Nazi militia.
Alexander Ritzman, a senior advisor with a counter-extremism project, has been studying the Active Club movement for years. He says that in their propaganda, Rendo and his followers liken themselves to Italy's fascist militia known as the Black Shirts, or to
like when we talk about the brown shirts, when we talk about this kind of thing, these are the kinds of guys whose highest ambition in life is to go door to door and like engage in vigilante action against minorities that they don't like. Trans people, gay people, Jewish people, black people, etc. That's these guys. These guys view that as aspirational.
Adolf Hitler's stormtroopers. So if this is a militia hiding in plain sight, what is...
I guarantee half of them are informants. Does that matter when the administration that they're informing agrees with their positions and will actively act to further their goals?
The battle they're preparing for.
They say we are preparing for the time when a white supremacist leader is worth and in need of protection.
Are you ready? Here in one of their hype videos, Redkey is shown entering a fight in Texas, escorted by Sean Kaufman, head of the Tennessee Active Club. Kaufman has been described by the Stop Anti-Semitism watchdog group as a disturbed neo-Nazi and Holocaust denier with a documented history of violence and a massive cache of firearms. Kaufman is now sitting in jail awaiting trial on a domestic violence charge. His bond revoked after shooting a bird at News Channel 5's camera in open court.
And this is the other thing, right? They have contempt for the news. They have contempt for, the propagation of information that is, inconvenient to them. They try to make it seem like they are the ultimate defenders, the warriors who protect Western civilization. But then they go home and beat their wives and abuse their children. And of course, again, their highest aspiration is just to die for the furtherance of, their cause, which is just hating minorities, right? And when you see like teenage neo-Nazis doing suicidal attacks against mosques or synagogues or schools, and then you read their manifesto or you learn more about what radicalized them, guys like this, groups like this, work deliberately to radicalize those school shooters. Because they genuinely think their worldview is that we're just this close to like the next race war. We're just this close. We just need the right thing to happen, and suddenly, it'll be every race for itself. And it's truly disgusting.
And here,
but this is what MAGA is. Underneath all of the fucking red hats, this is what they are.
Can be seen competing earlier this year in what was called a Spring Brawl, an event that critics say is designed to prepare men for battle on the streets of America. A group photo from that event, which disguised the faces of those who did not want to be identified, shows someone holding up a flag for a violent neo-Nazi group known as the Hammerskins.
They aren't just exhibitions. They are physically training, as we do in the military, to be able to not just physically, but mentally and emotionally cause physical harm to another human being.
Christopher Goldsmith heads a nonprofit known as Task Force Butler that trains veterans to infiltrate groups that they fear might pose a threat to American democracy.
It is far, far, far easier for a white supremacist to go and
I think that the next Democratic patient in Congress needs to look at updating the age limit of who can be president, and maybe this could be anodized.
I mean, maybe. I don't think the main problem here is age limits. I think the main problem here is money creating the mechanisms for this radicalization. Because this type of movement doesn't come out of nowhere. It is back. It is funded. The propaganda machines that create guys like this do not arise organically. They are funded by these billionaire types. You've got some billionaires funneling money to like the Daily Wire. You got to these deliberate propaganda outfits, and then you have red pill content that is siphoning up all of this, and all it takes is like a little bit of cash to these guys. All it takes is like the legitimization of their ideas by, the world's richest man, for example, or, a handful of billionaires that are willing to toss a few $1 million around. And like, this is what MAGA is. This is endpoint GOP politics. When you lift up the mask on the GOP, this is what's underneath.
Punch someone in the face to hit someone with a baseball bat if they've spent a few months punching their friend in the face for practice.
And the active clubs have begun in recent years working with another white nationalist group. Patriot Front wants to turn America into an ethno-state for white people only. Here, Redkay poses with Patriot Front leader Thomas Rousseau. And these are scenes from a training facility that the group runs in East Tennessee near Tellico Plains.
Yeah, we talked about this one and this particular... maybe not this exact event, but we did talk about this facility a few months ago.
It's operated by Patriot Front recruiter Ian Michael Elliott. Photos posted by the group show Redkay was there for the facility's grand opening. So after unsuccessfully trying to reach him by phone and email...
Hey, Tristan. Phil Williams with News Channel 5. Did you get my message?
Not interested.
We caught up with him outside the gym where we had previously spotted him, hoping to get some idea of his personal motivations.
What are you guys fighting for?
Sorry, man, I'm not answering that.
Robert Rendo says this is part of a fascist cultural revolution. Are you a fascist? You hate democracy?
Sorry, man. No,
But it's that focus on combat sports and physical fitness that experts say makes gyms like this one prime targets for recruiting activities. In fact, photos posted online show that Patriot Front recruiter Ian Michael Elliott has worked out in this very facility. The concern is such activities could disguise much more sinister motives. After a recent stabbing incident in Belfast involving a Sudanese refugee, mobs of masked white men took to the streets, attacking innocent immigrants, burning immigrant businesses, and torching some of their homes.
Yeah, we also covered this story, and you've got masked thugs burning people's homes, trying to storm homes where kids are inside in an effort to ethnically cleanse the area. And they're all out there, and some of the local white people are treating it like it's a goddamn festival, showing up with their kids, laughing at the wreckage. It was truly disgusting.
Online, Robert Rundo's group celebrated the riots, with one post declaring, "White boy summer is starting off hot this year." Another recited the white nationalist slogan, "By God, we'll have our home again." Another, "Tomorrow belongs to us."
Also, "By God, we'll have our home again" is the lyrics of a white nationalist country western song that's been popular in these circles for a couple years now. It's also been used by, oddly enough, U.S. government, the U.S. government to communicate, different ethnic cleansing operations engaged in by ICE. So weird at the alignment here.
God will have our home again. Another, "Tomorrow belongs to us." His group even published a post about the OPSEC, operational security, that helped the Northern Ireland mob to avoid arrest. The how-to post carried a disclaimer for educational purposes only. And what worries observers...
Yeah, to be very clear here, they view the violence against immigrants in Belfast to be aspirational.
Even more is that the active clubs are now making a deliberate effort to target teens. The young man in this fight, now an adult, is someone we met 3 years ago at a candidates forum in Franklin, Tennessee. He later sent me this photo showing off his swastika tattoo to taunt me. What is the danger in allowing these people to work out in your gym?
Recruitment.
No way these inbred dipshits know about OPSEC. They absolutely know about OPSEC because they're fucking terrified. They like to front that they are super chill about it, super chill with being identified. They're not. They're terrified.
The main aspect would definitely be recruitment.
And that's why experts say this movement should be viewed as more than just white guys who want to have fun. And to be clear, there is no evidence that Tristan Redke himself has done anything illegal. Still, this movement draws plenty of people with questionable histories, including criminal histories. And it turns out that the Nashville gym you saw in that video just recently changed ownership. Tonight, the new owner tells me that Tristan Redke is now banned from his facility. That new owner told me, quote, "We're inclusive and we've got every color under the rainbow, and every one of them is my brother. There's one tribe and there's one tribe under God." He added, "Things like that don't fly anymore."
Except the guys who have the swastikas tattooed on them that are at your gym.
As a mom to a teenager and a tween, I think we have to underscore here that these groups are targeting teenagers, kids who are just looking to belong somewhere, and mostly white teens.
That's right. It's become an increasing focus. They typically operate under names like Active Club Youth or Active Youth Clubs, which again sounds like something parents these days might support, getting kids off the sofa and active. But the agenda is they want to get into the heads of these boys and teach them to hate.
They're so impressionable.
Absolutely.
Right. Thanks, Phil.
Yeah, Phil, by the way, does incredible work You know, he's up there with Kyle Clark as one of my favorite American newsmen at the moment. I highly recommend you all read his blog post about his reporting, because he is also just an absolute badass when it comes to doing his on the ground reports. And he actually posted this on social media earlier from a Telegram channel reacting to his coverage on Channel 5. Specifically, neo-Nazis freaking out about it. United Youth mentioned alongside the Active Club Network on Channel 5 News tonight. It appears Nazi hunter Phil Williams is working overtime tonight in order to paint United Youth as some kind of grooming operation. These disgusting, senile traitors who pushed this smear campaign are agents of a system that protected and enabled elite pedophile networks, Epstein's Circle being only the most obvious example. United Youth is run by nationalist youth who support the 3.0 movement. 3%. We are not subordinate to anyone else. We are an organic organization. This should make the system rightly quake in their boots. For journalists scum reading this, you have lost the plot. The youth are done with the lies, and we want the entire current system abolished. It's that simple. What is interesting here is that, of course, the youth group is full of grown-ass adult men. It's so weird how they form these youth groups, and it's just grown-ass adult men seeking to indoctrinate and hold power over young teenage boys. That's so strange. Anyway, I wonder why these guys all support Donald Trump? Jeffrey Epstein's best friend? Who can say? Who can say? Anyway, let's see exactly how the I've seen it referred to as the let them eat racism stance from Donald Trump and his administration. Let's see how that's going over according to the latest YouGov poll. Let's just take a quick gander here. Oh, wait. It's actually down among all age groups, and it is absolutely plummeting to an all-time low among 45-year-olds to 64-year-olds. Gen X out here actually absolutely hating what has happened, falling off the fucking diving board on that one. Whoops. That's crazy. It's almost like being told we're offering you literally nothing.
More leftist communities and hugs. We can't abandon men. Some leftist orgs are anti-men. Men need to hold each other accountable. They need hope.
Man, if you read that, if you went over that part of this segment and you were like, everything's anti-men, so they became Nazis, like, man, that is a woeful interpretation. Like, I by all means, we should be supporting men, we should be supporting women, we should be supporting each other, period. But, like, it's a little disheartening, especially when this segment isn't about all men, but is specifically about the fascist movement of the Republican Party preying on insecurities for men, right? When we're talking about fascism, and Umberto Eco's 14 Points of Fascism and Fascism talks about this at length, but a lot of what drives fascism is perceived aggrievement from men and the policing among men, right? So what we're actually looking at isn't, leftist communities are anti-men and therefore those men become Nazis. What we're looking at is instead that patriarchy as a system facilitates mentalities within men in order to police the behavior and the expression of men, right? The actual thing oppressing men is the patriarchal systems upheld by these neo-Nazis. When we're talking about young men looking to belong, they're looking to belong because the patriarchal system they were raised in has certain expectations that systemically they are unable to meet. because those conditions rely upon a certain set of economics. And so when we're looking at this, it's not like, oh, well, leftists are anti-men, therefore these guys became Nazis. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying fascists are recruiting men, and they need the left need to recruit them too. Sure, but you don't do that by, like, I don't know, capitulating to the same framing that these guys use. You don't fight this type of radicalization by validating the patriarchal structure that is leading to the creation of these groups, right? And that's part of the problem, right? It's one of the reasons why there was such a large backlash against feminism online for such a long time. It's because reactionaries said, oh, feminism, it sounds like feminine, therefore it must be against men. That's just inane. It's inane bullshit from people who don't know what they're talking about. I will say, the rest of your comment, when I was in PSL, they would not recruit men. Bad leftist groups should be called out. Absolutely. Which is one of the reasons I don't cape for PSL. It's one of the reasons I don't cape for CPUSA. There are bad groups out there, but they are by no means mainstream whatsoever. PSL, not PSO. PlayStation Online. RIP. Anyway. Where was I? Yes. It is worth noting that for all of the attempts for fascists to rally around the flag, as it were, for Donald Trump, literally, we are hitting colossal lows when it comes to every single demographic. He's underwater with white people as a whole. He's underwater with educated white people. He's underwater even with his longtime most solid demographic, white people with no college education. He is now officially dipped under a positive approval rating. He's at -6% when it comes to uneducated white folks. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. The Let 'em Eat Racism Party just cannot survive the colossal dipshittery that is the Republican Party, the colossal scam being run on the American people over and over and over again. They're making your grandma's drugs more expensive for no reason other than to put more money in Elon Musk's pockets. They're robbing you blind. They kicked 1 million people off of Snap to let them starve. They are specifically some of the biggest hypocrites to ever walk the face of the earth. Here's Lauren Boebert here.
Now, you've spent years holding public worship gatherings in places where faith was supposed to be quiet. What do you believe in this spiritual catalyst for this revival? I don't think Jesus ever called for any Christian to pray only silently or to keep their faith hidden only in the prayer closet.
Right.
Literally, Jesus does talk about that. Literally, Jesus does talk about that and says you shouldn't pray in front of everybody because then you get your full reward then and there for your faith. That's literally something he talked about. These fucking fake-ass dipshits, these scam artists, these charlatans, they are using the aesthetics of faith, they are using the aesthetics of patriotism, and they do not believe a goddamn word that comes out of their mouths. It's truly disgusting. The systems that are enabling the Republican Party to put up candidates like Lauren Boebert time and time again, Donald Trump, nationalism, fascism, that are normalizing this shit, these systems must be destroyed and rendered inoperable. This cannot be allowed to continue. This is unsustainable. Guys, it gets worse, right? This is from yesterday. Florida Senator Ashley Moody faces renewed scrutiny over her role in Hope Florida scandal. She's been in the United States Senate for 18 months, right? That's strange. We don't know much about her. Let's take a look here. She won 2 statewide elections in 2018 and 2022 and has her quiet fealty to Ron DeSantis that led to his decision in January of 2025 to appoint her to the Senate to replace Marco Rubio. DeSantis cited several reasons for why he was appointing Moody. That's strange. And then back in 2024, Amendment 3 was a constitutional amendment that would have legalized marijuana, and Amendment 4 was the measure to restore abortion rights in the state. Let's take a quick look here. The Hope Florida scandal. As Florida Attorney General, it was Moody and her office that approved the diversion of $10 million of taxpayer money to the Hope Florida Foundation. And the Attorney General did so without placing any of the safeguards or guardrails her office would typically require to make sure the money was properly spent. Those funds were intended to expand Medicaid for children in Florida, but instead they ended up in the bank accounts of a pair of political action committees, one of which was controlled by the governor and his chief of staff, James Uthmeier. And that was the money that Ron DeSantis used to defeat Amendment 3. Amendment 3 garnered 56% of the vote in November of 2024, just shy of the 60% needed to pass. It is, in fact, because of this, it is entirely arguable that this $10 million that was supposed to go to fucking children who were sick and injured instead went to a political action committee lobbying against marijuana legalization. And how did that happen? Who can say? Who can say? Except that, sure seems like Republicans are constantly doing crimes, constantly doing the kinds of fraud that Republicans accuse Democrats of doing. I just want to point out, this is exactly the same shit that Republicans have been crying about happening in Minnesota. Except in Minnesota, there's not evidence that Tim Walz deliberately took money from Medicaid and funneled it into a super PAC or that he controls in order to further his political ambitions. However, that happened in Florida. Weird that none of the people who constantly talk about fraud, government fraud, aren't talking about this. So strange. Where's the where's the Nicholas Shirley video on this kind of fraud? Weird, we don't see that. Oh wait. After 2 months after the amendment failed, DeSantis appointed Moody to the United States Senate, and he appointed Uthmeier to replace Moody as Attorney General. Oh, so the Attorney General who approved this $10 million transfer with no oversight whatsoever, that $10 million went missing into a political action committee, got put in the U.S. Senate. And the guy who ran the political action committee, who was also in league with the governor, who also ran that political action committee, got appointed to take her place. Even Republicans in Florida are calling this out for being illegal. This is a misuse of Medicaid money, Republican State Representative Alex Andrade told CBS Miami in August of 2025. This is money laundering. Following the revelations, the state attorney in Leon County opened a grand jury investigation, but no charges were brought because of the probe. But a grand jury did release a report detailing its findings and concerns. It's so crazy that they just had concerns about $10 million that were intended to go to sick and injured kids disappearing into a political action committee. So cool. I'm so glad people in Florida are concerned. The Republican Party is the party of thieves, liars, hypocrites, and frankly, fascists. It must be dismantled. The systems that allow it to exist must be dismantled. It cannot be allowed to exist as part of our political system. It cannot be allowed to exist. And of course, let's lay one additional point out. This is from Katie Fang, who has been waging a legal battle with Todd Blanche in an effort to get the Epstein files released. And here is a recent video from her. Let's throw this up here.
So not only has Judge Sullivan found, as a matter of fact and a matter of law, that Blanche has violated the Epstein Files Transparency Act, his ability to order Todd Blanche to show up to chambers with the unredacted documents and with proof supporting his claims that these are victims that are having their identification redacted. The order itself also says that the court has, quote, inherent authority to review materials in camera in cases in which sensitive materials may be an issue. The court has inherent authority to review such material ex parte in camera as part of its judicial review function. I have faith in Judge Sullivan's ability to be able to weed through the bullshit that Todd Blanche will likely try to shovel. And it's okay if I'm not there. Was hoping I could be there, but it's okay. Because as of right now, I have an order by way of a preliminary injunction that hasn't been overturned, hasn't been reversed, hasn't been changed or amended in any way, that says that I get the unredacted documents. This is just the sideshow created by Todd Blanche. But let's stay focused on the main event.
Worth noting here that the Trump administration continues to try and hide and cover up for the pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, continues to try and cover up for his accomplices, continues to try and cover up for the people who partook in the sexual abuse. And it's worth noting here, frankly, that MAGA just doesn't give a shit. I guess it's fine to these people and to this movement that has been built into, inseparable from the GOP. It's fine to them to put into power people who sexually abuse children. It's fine. They're okay with it. And honestly, it kind of seems like they're more okay with it. They like it. They view it as a power move. Like, oh yeah, sure, we'll put a pedophile into office. And you know what? We like it because it shows you can't do anything about it. This is not the kind of movement we can conscionably allow to exist in the United States. This is not the kind of political party. This is not the kind of ideology that can be allowed to have formal backing in the form of tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars. This is inherently anti-democratic. It is inherently anathema to our political system. And frankly, I think one of the most obvious reasons this cannot be allowed is because of how it is manifesting here. And that is that we have in office, propped up by tens of millions, hundreds of millions of donor dollars, a doddering old fool who is very specifically doing something every day that is an incredibly illegal act, an attack on the American people themselves. This came out a couple of days ago, and I've honestly still been grappling with it. Trump administration admits canceling grants to states that did not vote for him. What does that mean? What does that look like? That looks like Donald Trump saying that, well, the people who didn't vote for me, if you live in a blue state, we're cutting off billions of dollars in aid. We're not going to put out disaster relief money for you when you get flooded, when you get hit with tornadoes, when you get hit with earthquakes, when you get hit with hurricanes. We are not going to issue disaster relief funds to blue states. We are not going to come to the aid of Americans in need. We are not going to help the people of this country that need helping. And in fact, off of this petty grievance, we aren't even going to fund your healthcare system that relies on federal funds. We're not going to fund any of this, right? And the thing is, and I see it, Billy the Kid, I see, yes, Trump has already threatened this multiple times. It's not the threat. This has already been carried out. This has already happened. What is new about this is that Donald Trump and the Trump administration in court are now admitting that this is the formal policy of the government. The formal policy of the Trump administration, and by extension of the GOP in general, is that half the country should just go fucking die. That's the formalized policy. It is the most anti-American thing possible. It is, frankly, I would consider it treasonous to be going about policy decisions in this way. though it's not treason on behalf of any foreign power, it's treason on behalf of selling out the American people to capital, selling out the American people for your own petty grievances. It's just plain wrong. And honestly, I want to bring it all back to this thread by Robert Evans, who, if you're not following, I highly recommend it. Wonderful writer and podcaster. The only I believe this is supposed to be a reasonable attitude for liberals and progressives to align on is that all right-wing grievances, claims, and beliefs are not only false, but malicious lies. Nothing passes the mouth of an American conservative in public life that is not meant to harm and destroy the lives of millions. And guys, this is true. There isn't one idea that your average Republican holds that, if brought to its logical conclusion, wouldn't entail the destruction of millions of people. There's not one fucking idea that the average conservative has that doesn't entail the immiseration of countless individuals. The Republican Party must be destroyed as a functional political entity, but conservatism itself must be eradicated in any way that resembles its modern existence. There is nothing to save. There is nothing that deserves your respect. I was raised as a conservative by conservatives. Right-wing politics are nothing but a rhetorical game. Played to its end, the game leads to the destruction of organized human life on Earth. If you are conservative and want to salvage something of that ideology, you must also support the eradication of the Republican Party and American conservatism as it presently exists. They are the enemy of small government, human liberty, peace, and thriving. And that's correct. That's correct. Like, genuinely, it's correct. The biggest supporters of the GOP, of MAGA, are billionaires. And those billionaires know that they are getting wealthy off of fossil fuels. They know they're getting wealthy off of the destruction of the environment, the poisoning of our air and water. They know it, and they do it anyway because they think, well, I'm going to be dead by the time the bill comes due. You know? The bill will only come due for our children's children's children. So, like, who gives a shit about them, am I right? If you recognize that as the threat it is to human civilization, you must support the destruction of the GOP. If you acknowledge that our systems of information have been hopelessly captured by capital, then you must support the destruction of the GOP. If you acknowledge that the rhetoric and the ideas being put forward by the GOP entail the destruction of hundreds of thousands of people, of millions of people, the displacement of tens of millions, the enslavement of millions more, then you must be supportive of this of the destruction of the GOP, utterly and completely. This doesn't mean that there aren't going to be folks who are more conservative than others, but this particular political vehicle is hopelessly captured by people who have more money than you can possibly imagine, who have more power than you can possibly imagine. And they are the enemies of all human life. And they will not stop, and they will not rest until we are all enslaved by them. One of the things, as we're looking forward into the future and looking at, 2028 and the presidential elections, and as we're coming into these midterms here in 2026, one of the things we need to consider is whom among the candidates recognizes the monolithic problem in front of us and is willing to do what it takes in order to destroy the mechanisms that have hopelessly captured media institutions and millions of people across the country. That's where we're at. And it's no accident that at this time of national crisis, you are seeing people take to the streets and say, you're basically getting Evelyn Normie lib memes made manifest. Mild-mannered, retired substitute teachers who are going out into the street and saying things that I could never say on my stream. And they voted for, like, Hillary Clinton in 2016. You know, you're seeing people who voted for like Bill Clinton in the 90s and then didn't vote again for the next like 30, 40 years out here saying shit that would make people blush. You're out there seeing like World War II veterans, you know, at like 100 years old, shakily talking about how this reminds them of like the Nazis, and that they did it once, they'll do it again if they have to. It's no accident that this is happening, because people all over are recognizing that there is a fundamental problem. And what I am encouraging all of you to do is to evaluate this problem in its totality. Not as in, well, Donald Trump is the problem, and if we just get rid of the Republican leadership, you know, and beat them in elections, then everything will be fine again. Because that's not enough. We need to recognize the systemic issue. We need to recognize that the system itself gave birth to what the Republican Party is now. And we must reform that system so that that can never happen again. And to do that, we need candidates who recognize the actual goddamn problem. So, all of that being said, folks, get involved today. Get involved in your local Democratic Party. Get involved in your local DSA. Get involved. It is the best offense and defense we have available to us. Join your local Dems. Join your local DSA. Organize with like-minded people. Build that political power. Engage in your political system. Keep your neighbors, your friends, and your families safe. And let's build a movement that's worth a damn, that will dismantle the GOP piece by piece until the actual politics of this country are decided not between the Democrats and the Republicans, but between those on the left who are progressive and those on the right who are liberal. That is what we have to do. And so we got to get to work. If you need help getting involved and taking your first steps, because you know it can be scary, join our Discord. Reach out to Dragonfly for help joining your local Dems. Reach out to GamerG for help joining your local DSA. We'll help connect you. We'll help organize. We'll give you tips on how to like navigate the sometimes confusing organizational spaces that are there. We have private chats in which you can organize with other people who've joined DSA or joined the Democrats in their local areas. Y'all can mingle together and support one another, share memes, do all that jazz. And I mean, that's where we're at, right? It is not a movement where any one of us is going to make the difference, but it is a movement where all of us working together make the difference. And so each one of us needs to be a piece of our inevitable victory. All that being said, folks, if you got anything out of this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this. Are you for or against dismantling the GOP? I think it would be an excellent idea. All that being said, last but not least, check out ImogeneOlivia.com. Gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes, tested with cis men, cis women, non-binary folks, and trans men. It is, hey, sexy, comfortable, non-tucking lingerie. Go check it out, ImogeneOlivia.com. We just got 2 new sizes, a new color, and a full restock. Go check it out, ImogeneOlivia.com. Link down in the description. Let's keep on going.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.